Well, after the episode which ended in the third non-elimination of the season, which absolutely set Twitter on fire, so much so that my whole review of that episode was just putting up all the hate-filled tweets. People were very unhappy, especially not just because it's another non-elimination episode, but that was gearing up to be such an interesting tribal council. I was super excited. I was very excited, and they did something like that. And why, like, someone gets to mutiny and go over to the other side? Of course it's Pete. Of course, that's not a big surprise. Of course he's gonna jump over. He only just joined that tribe anyway. He's got no connections. He's in danger. Wow, big surprise that he's gonna jump ship. Of course, that's ridiculous. And now at the end of this episode of 15, they said next episode, they're gonna merge anyway. So why'd you bother having a mutiny when there's only one vote away from the merge? Why did you sabotage such an interesting tribal council only one vote away from the merge? I don't know. So there's some conspiracy theories out there that maybe Luke is the one that the producers want to win, so they threw that in because they thought Sarah was going to take him out and they didn't want that to happen. I don't know if that's true. Would that also mean that there was a conspiracy theory to keep Tara around? I doubt it. But interestingly, if I can find the tweet again, I'll put it on screen. When this episode started, people on Twitter were like, actually vote someone out, Survivor, on the Survivor hashtag. And the actual official Survivor account did respond to one of those people and said, don't worry, we promise someone will get voted out this episode. So I think they realized that was a huge mistake. That was like third strike and you're out. I would be interested to see with the ratings from that episode to this episode, whether there was a drop. I mean, I gotta imagine something like that really did upset people. Mind you, a lot of people on Twitter were also complaining that the music in Tribal Council was too loud and they couldn't hear what Jonathan LaPaglia was saying. I don't know, I didn't find that though. I could always hear him pretty well. And I know some of you might be upset that I didn't do like a full strategic breakdown of the episode, but honestly I can't, because you can't analyze the strategy unless you know how it turned out at the vote, because we need to look at the successful strategy of the episode to determine which is the better strategy. We don't know how that vote would have turned out, so there's no way of knowing whether Sarah's strategy or Luke's strategy was the best, which is a real shame because I actually think Sarah was going to win, and based off the poll I put on Twitter, a lot of you guys thought Luke was going to be voted out too. So I mean, that's why I didn't do a proper breakdown, because there's nothing to break down, there's nothing to talk about. Yeah, at least when Tara didn't get voted out, we still got to see how the votes went, so we could still analyze strategy, but here they didn't even vote at all. So anyway, enough of that, let's get into this episode. So this episode starts with Asaga getting back from Tribal Council, and they have a massive argument because of all of Luke's double dealing under the table, and Tara in particular is very upset with him. She feels that he's trying to throw her under the bus, and Sarah's trying to not get all the hatred on her because she's worried she's unprotected now that Pete's gone. Interestingly though, Jericho did not seem that upset with Luke, which really surprised me because Luke deliberately kept Jericho out of the loop because he thought Jericho would not be up for voting for Sarah. So why he wasn't more angry at Luke for basically double-crossing him and keeping him out of the loop, I don't know. Maybe he was, they just didn't show it, or maybe they had a conversation off screen and he sort of explained it. I don't know, but that seemed very strange to me. But the next morning the mood was very low. Everyone was very depressed, and Luke went out looking for an idol because he said over the last couple of days is the first time he felt legitimately threatened in this game, and you could see that over last episode leading up to the tribal. He didn't quite seem himself. I think he knew that he was in danger. And he still at this point does feel he's in danger because he's out looking for an idol. Of course he doesn't find one because both the idols are over at Samatau, as well as the super idol, so we've already got 3 idols. The odds of them throwing in a 4th, I mean, that'd be ridiculous. They're not going to do that. And while Luke's off doing that, Sarah gets to work doing what she does in rebuilding relationships. And she starts with Jericho, and this hit Jericho very hard that he thought he knew what was going on in his alliance, but it didn't. It all totally exploded in his face. And this cuts him very deeply, but also it indicates to us, the audience, that Jericho really doesn't have a very good read on what's happening in the tribe and what side everyone's on. And we did get to see a bit of that in last episode, like just when he was trying to tell Tara what to do and he clearly had no idea what was happening. So I do think that's ultimately going to be his downfall, because in Survivor, not knowing the lay of the land is deadly. It's deadly. So that to me is going to be Jericho's downfall. That's going to be the reason he gets voted out, unless Luke or Sarah or Henry carry him all the way to the end, in which case he still won't win because he'll just be a goat. But while Jericho is showing lack of awareness of what's happening in the tribe, Sarah shows incredible awareness of what's happening in the tribe when she drops the bomb on Tara that she thinks she can get the boys to vote out Odette. And she was right. She did get the boys to vote out Odette. That's incredible. I didn't even imagine for a second that you would be able to do something like that, but she was able to do it. And she obviously totally nailed Odette's character, that it's someone that you cannot work with because she doesn't want to scheme. She doesn't want to do any blindside. She doesn't want to do any moves. She just wants to float with the tide, go with the majority vote, go with the easy vote, and just last one more day. I mean, how can you play Survivor with someone like that? You can't. And especially if they're about to go into the merge, they need people who can actually play. Because if she's someone who'll just float off and just go with the majority, she'll just join Samatau after the merge. And that's not someone they can count on. But we'll cycle back to that a bit later. Let's jump over to what happened in Samatau, since they didn't go to Trouble. Well, Pete, of course, was very happy to be back with all of his old teammates, all of his old Alliance members. He obviously did the right thing by his game, because he didn't want to, if your head's on the chopping block and you have a chance to get out of it, you get out of it. That's what you do. You do what you have to do to survive. But I gotta tell you, he really does need to start actually building a resume if he plans on winning this. I mean, it's one thing to keep your head low. I mean, sure, you have to do that at some points in Survivor, but merge time, that's when you really need to start building a resume. That's when people are going to start going on the jury. They're the ones you're going to have to convince to give you the money and make you the sole survivor at the end. So he needs to actually start doing something. So hopefully, for Pete's own sake, that running away, committing mutiny, that's the last time he'll run away from a challenge. He cannot run away anymore. He has to actually make moves to be in the game if he wants to have a good resume. But as Henry pointed out in his discussions with Lockie, Pete coming back, Pete jumps over him in the hierarchy and pushes him way down to the bottom with Lockie and Michelle now. Because Pete is part of the original Samatau Alliance, where Henry and Lockie were forming like a new Samatau Alliance after AK left. So Henry says, I need to get back to doing what I do best, making my moves. Dun dun dun. Look forward to it as well. But Pete joining up with his old alliance, he and Tess say that they want to push their alliance as far as they can between Tess, Pete, Ziggy and Jared, reforming their old alliance, which would give them the numbers, but what they don't know is that both Annalise and Henry have idols. So even if they have the numbers on their side, 2 idols on the opposing side is a serious obstacle to overcome, and they don't even know about it. Michelle suspects that Henry has it, but no one else knows that Annalise has it, except of course for Sarah, but she's on the other tribe. They also don't know that Ziggy is much closer to Henry and Lockie than they realize. She actually told them that she has an idol. Granted, she didn't say it was a super idol, but she told them she had an idol. So that means that she is now tied to them. She is bound to them. She can't betray them because they can always just spill the beans that she has an idol, and then that puts a target on her back. And if Ziggy does not join the original Samatau alliance of Tessa, Pete, Jared, then it's 4 versus 4, and the other side still has 3 idols. So the idol side is most likely going to win a battle like that. So this is the point in the game where it is getting very interesting. But we're going to have to wait a lot longer before we see any kind of clash between these 2 alliance groups. And after the merge, there's going to be a 3rd alliance group. Maybe there'll be a temporary alliance between them and the original Samatau alliance. I don't know. But in any case, Henry's alliance has all the idols. It's going to be really hard to beat them. But the story of this episode was over at Asaga. So Sarah makes her pitch to Luke about how to take out Odette. And this was amazing, because this was actually mirrors one of the other best moves I think that's ever been done in Survivor, where there's 2 sides at war with each other. They've got even number of votes. There's one person in the middle who's the swing vote. But because that person in the middle has no idea what they're doing, they're like, oh, maybe I'll go with this person. Oh, maybe I'll go with that person. Blah, 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 blah. And they're just sort of stringing everyone along. The one thing that can unite those 2 sides is taking out the flip-flopper, the swing vote. That's why, often we see this happen. Often. That people are like, I'm the swing vote. I have all the power. I can strut around like the cock of the walk. And they end up getting voted out. Because the one thing that can unite enemies is that common threat. And I love the way Sarah kind of pitched it to Luke, which is like, I don't want my fate in this game to go into the hands of Odette. And I don't think you do either. So let's put our differences aside, take out Odette, and then if you want to take me out later, you'll at least still be around to take me out later if you want to, whereas you'll only have a 50-50 chance of being around in the future if you just leave it up to Odette to decide which of us goes. So clearly it's better to unite and act and take out Odette. Just shows in Survivor, if you find yourself as a swing vote in between two alliances, you can't dick around. You have to be decisive, you have to commit to one side, and you need to do it quickly, otherwise you'll be the one who gets taken out. I mean, Odette even said, she even said to their faces, I think I'll just decide when I'm there, and if I had a coin to flip, I'd probably just flip a coin. Oh my god. Really? Really, Odette? Like, how did you not expect them to turn on you after you say that to their faces? This is their game. This is their life in this game that we're talking about, and you're like, oh, I'll just flip a coin. Seriously? Like, if you're gonna vote someone out of Survivor, at least have a good reason for it. Don't just be like, oh, I'll just decide when I'm there. Like, that's just such an insult, not only to the two people whose heads are on the chopping block, but just to the whole game of Survivor. And I mentioned on Twitter that I think being voted out by just go with the easy vote Odette would probably be one of the biggest insults. Odette, the person who actually says, not wanting to strategize is my strategy. Yeah, how'd that work out, Odette? I'm sorry, I'm being really hard on Odette. It's just, it frustrates me when people don't want to play the game like this. It's like, why are you even there? You know, like there was something like 20,000 people who applied to be on this show, and you're one of the lucky ones who actually were able to get on, and you're not even interested in playing the game. Like, it's just terrible. It's terrible. But when I rewatched this episode through for a second time, I could see that when Odette was off sunbaking or whatever she did, Sarah was able to talk to everyone else in the tribe there, and that was when they must have pitched this idea of that we're about to go into this merge. We're about to go in a war. We need everyone who's strong. We need all of our strategic brains together to smash up that Samatau tribe, because it's a big tribe. So we can't afford to have someone who does not want to strategize and just wants to go with the majority, because then she'll just go over with them. She'll just go with the majority. And that's really good logic. And we see Tara actually says, wow, that was easy. I wish the vote was always that easy. So this unity in Asaga of taking out this common liability of Odette, that's genuine. Like, they really did all just put aside their differences and decide to vote out Odette very, very quickly. And I'm glad that like Luke and Sarah didn't go, because if either of them did go, it probably would have been, especially with Sarah, because I do think she would have won the tribal if they had voted last time. If Sarah had gone home tonight in particular, that really would have been a travesty of justice, because she wouldn't have gone home because of any fault of her game playing, just because of the producers dicking around. So yeah, it might have sucked that they cheated us out of a really interesting vote, but we've still got the interesting players in the game, and we just got rid of Odette. So that sort of cushions the blow of not having another tribal last episode. So as for what happens next week with the merge and the vote and all that, God only knows. God only knows. We're going to have Old Samatau Alliance with Michelle, that is assuming Michelle doesn't jump over to the Asaga Alliance, and then we're going to have the new Samatau Alliance, which might not have the numbers, but they'll have all the idols, and all three of those factions are going to be battling it out. Or maybe Henry will be able to temporarily unite the old Samatau Alliance and the new Samatau Alliance just to take out the Asaga people. But then again, Sarah's one of the Asaga people. She's got a special connection with Annalise, who knows about Henry's idol. Annalise could help Sarah blindside Henry. I don't know, there's so much stuff that could happen, but I'm still hoping that Henry will win. It's going to be an uphill battle for him though, because there's lots of people gunning for him, and he's only got one idol, and that idol won't work if Ziggy decides to take it out. So it's going to be an exciting next couple of episodes, and I can't wait for it. Put your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for sharing the show, guys. Please do continue to share these reviews with your friends, and until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.